Thank you for being here. I'm a retired RN, so I was in the Ohio Nurses Association union. I live about 3 blocks from the train derailment. We were evacuated. Came back on about the 10th when they said it was all clear. On the 12th, I had a doctor's appointment already scheduled. I started getting rashes. So fast forward, so I don't want to take up your time, but fast forward because I can talk for hours. May 1st, this is about the time where they started digging up the pits, cleaning up. I started getting 2nd, 3rd, and 4th degree chemical burns. I have the burns over 80% of my body. They burrow deep down in. It's horrible. So of course, going to doctors, trying to get figured out. Nobody knows. No one can tell me. I was diagnosed with systemic contact dermatitis due to chemical exposure. I have now lesions in my spine. I have cysts on my kidneys. I have kidney stones in my kidneys. March 4th, I had a heart attack, had a septal infarct. And there's really nothing you could do. I probably should have killed me. I went into the hospital on the 4th with full body. My whole body was swollen. So I was passing kidney stones, so I figured, that's probably what the problem was. On the 5th, so they treated me. On the 4th, let me go home, took a bunch of labs. On the 5th that night, didn't feel good, knew something was going on. On the 6th of March, I got a phone call from the ER telling me to get back in here. We got problems. So I went back in, and they explained to me what was going on. I have a blood infection. Now I'm scheduled to have surgery, heart surgery on the 5th. There's only one doctor that can do this type of surgery in the U.S., so he's flying into Cleveland Clinic to do this. I guess what I'm saying is I've had EPA at my house testing for my soil. They said it was contaminated with formaldehyde. But don't worry, it's just low levels. I have scars on top of scar, on top of scar, on top of scar. The mental part has damaged me. I'm not the only one in this town that has problems, and I know this. But there isn't anybody out there that's really medical-wise. What my doctors do, and I have 7 of them, what they do is they roll things out. I have the whole neurological community doing research on me. They can't figure it out. I probably shouldn't say this, but my one doctor called me and said, well, between me and you, I can't really tell you that I can't put it in your medical chart. He says, but I can take the stand and say it was 100% due to chemical exposure. So I'm trying to get awareness out there. The last burn that I received was on September 27th, and that's because I quit going outside. I still get rashes, not to the extent where it burrows down into my bones. Dermatologists tell me to put cream on it. That made it worse. So I had to become my own researcher. I had to become my own scientist. I had to become everything that I'm not to figure out how to stop this. And what I've discovered was bleach. Bleach is the only thing that would stop these chemical burns from getting worse. It neutralized them. So it's been a very tough road for everybody here in town. It's been a tough road for everyone here in the U.S. You know, I got a letter from Norfolk Southern saying, well, we know something happened to you, but National Transport, somebody needed to know all my medical information. So we need you to put your medical information on a disc and send it to us. I went down to Norfolk Southern. I have $500,000 of medical bills. I'm on Medicare. I have to pay 20% of that. They abuse me. They mentally, emotionally. One guy told me that I will never see a check from them. I went down with a $12 bill asking, $12 bill. They looked at my diagnosis, gave me the papers back, and told me not to come back. I am losing everything. I'm losing my home. I lost my relationship. I'm a foster parent. I lost my kids. This is more than one person can take. I just don't even know what to say. I want to thank you guys for coming here. This was like I wasn't even going to come because I feel sometimes I'm defeated. But I can't feel that way. Because if I don't talk, no one's going to know. No one's going to know. But I thank you very much. And when we come together, there's more things that get done. Because me doing this as one person, it is exhausting. So thank you.
Speak about the derailment that happened here and some of the things, and I'm going to try to be brief. We got a lot of people want to speak and everything, but you know, it was a catastrophe that happened that changed our lives, and we're never going to get back to normal. And we've had a lot of different circumstances that have happened to us that are completely out of our control. We didn't want that train derailment. We didn't ask for that train derailment, and we cannot do anything about that right now without the help of everybody here and everybody across the country. It's going to take all of us to get past this and to really let people know what happened and what we can do about it. Since the derailment happened, I was a gas pipeline worker. I developed congestive heart failure, which ended up spiraling into severe heart failure. I've been unable to work since April of last year. I'm unable to provide for my family. I have 3 girls. I've lost my health benefits in that time because I wasn't working. I can't afford my medications right now because of this, because of something that could have been prevented by the railroad, by Norfolk Southern. It could have been and should have been prevented. It should have never happened. And one of the biggest takeaways about this is what happened here can happen to anybody out there. They have done nothing to fix the safety issues, the maintenance problems, anything like that. This can happen at anybody's place, anywhere in this country right now, because they won't do anything about it until they hear from us. Once they hear from us and we start letting them know that we're done, we're not taking this anymore. We got to stand up. We got to unite. We got to get together, and we got to make this right. And we got to let them know that this is unacceptable. You are changing people's lives for the worse. And we can't do it anymore, guys. We have to do better on this. So Again, I really want to thank everybody here. It's amazing. We still have the bus missing, like Steve said. So, you know, this whole process has been a whole bunch of speed bumps on the way here. The bus is just another one of those, but they'll get here and we'll be able to hear from some of those people. But I really, truly want to thank everybody for being here. You guys, it means everything to us here, and I can't thank you guys enough. So, thank you.
I first just want to thank everybody for being here. Exactly what Chris said, you guys don't know what this means to our community. We have felt completely abandoned here in East Palestine by so many people, including our government. Sometimes you start to think nobody cares. I refuse to believe that people would not care if they truly knew what was going on here. You know, when you see little kids with unexplained nosebleeds, when you see little kids covered in rashes, asthma, I don't believe that anybody could turn a blind eye to that. So we need to bring awareness. So thank you guys. My name is Jamie Wallace. I lived within the 1 mile zone. I have 47 immediate family members that live within that 1 mile zone. When Norfolk Southern and our government was going to lift the evacuation on East Palestine, my husband and I kind of had a little argument. He said, "What are we going to do when they lift the evacuation?" I said, "We're going to go home. If the EPA says it's okay, it's okay." I'm an educated woman to advanced degrees. I learned in school what the EPA does. They protect us. Well, I had to go home that Sunday to get prescriptions. If you ever get evacuated, make sure you grab your prescriptions. And as soon as I pulled in the driveway, sulfur runs along my driveway, the most heavily contaminated creek. I pull in my driveway, I'm overtaken by a smell that I can't even describe. I started coughing, my lungs were burning, my nose started to tingle, my mouth was tingling. I look over at the creek and I can just see chemicals free flowing down the creek. I didn't need a scientist to tell me that things were not okay at my house. My body told me enough. We threw a big enough fit, we got Norfolk Southern to bring down CTEH, their testing company. The creek has 2 embankments on each side, so it goes from about 4 inches to 4 feet in a good rain. Again, you don't need to be a rocket scientist to figure out when that water rises, it's going into that soil. And my basement was about 7 paces from that. He saw a small strip of moisture coming down my wall where the basement leaks. He said that that could puddle an off gas. The next day, Norfolk Southern called and offered to move us out. Just tell us what you need and we'll replace everything. And I said, wait a minute, let me think about what dollar amount do you put on your life? I couldn't take pictures of my dad that just passed away 2 years ago. What is that worth? And then I started thinking about all the other people in the community, all of my family members, every person that I've ever grown up with, loved about, cared about. I knew there was no way they were just wrong about my house. The one big mouth redhead that's stubborn, they weren't just wrong about my house. So I told the whole community what happened that night. Not one single official ever called me back to see that video. At the very least, if you think I'm lying, watch the video so you can laugh and make fun of whatever I made up. No one has contacted me. Since then, I founded the Unity Council where we pull together community members. You're going to hear from a couple more of them here in a minute because I realized this fight was bigger than me. My union connection, I worked at Cleveland State for 15 years. I was the executive board member, SEIU 1199. Where's my SEIU? And somebody asked me, did you have organizing experience before this? And I said, no. And they said, well, it's funny, you organized Unity Council like a union. I was an organizer. I had 5 delegates when I took over as executive board member at SEIU, at CSU chapter. By the time I left, I had 34 delegates. So what I did is I divided them into executive committees. I got a couple people that worked in the nursing school to sit on a healthcare committee. A couple other people from the law school sat on the grievance committee. So we had a Unity Council meeting once every couple months with all 5 union heads so that we could discuss those issues that overlapped. So in this East Palestine incident, I realized we're all fighting the same war, different battles. So we now have an executive committee that's just for union coordination, and we have a lead, Darren at the end, he'll tell you about that. We have Christina, who heads up like our media. She's also a creek ranger, so she goes into the creeks. We have a political committee. We have a committee for human health issues. So we've all come together as a community because what we've realized, no one else is going to fight this fight for us. And this isn't just a fight for East Palestine. This is a fight for all of the laborers across the country. We built this country with our blood, sweat, and tears. Our ancestors built this country. And now our country is in the hands of these corporations that have created a country that I don't want to live in. I never thought pre-derailment that I'd be a U.S. citizen sitting here right now telling you that my mother is so sick that she has an unexplained huge open sore on her forehead that the dermatologist has never seen. I'm here to tell you my 18-year-old niece just turned 18 in October, just spent 5 days in the hospital. She started having unexplained seizures. My brother, who's here today, he has to have an MRI on the nodules on his lungs and a liver biopsy. You know, my twin nieces that are 13 that had exposure, chemical bronchitis. Like, people are suffering. I just got a text message when I was standing outside from someone who said, hey, my friend just came down with a really rare form of cancer. He spent a lot of time at our buddy's house at Ground Zero. What should I do? You know, I told him to join the study and to make a short video clip for a story that we're doing for a national news station. People are calling me, asking me, where do I find water? Where do I find food? My child has blood coming out of its ears. Where do I take them? I'm just like you guys. You know, I'm just an everyday person. I'm a house mother. I'm fighting for my child. When I say I'll fight to the death for my child, I'll fight the government. But I can't do it alone. East Palestine can't do it alone. And this impacts every single one of you. They come into these communities, these corporate polluters, who do they hire? Who were the guys that went in and tore out asbestos with no PPE? The railroad workers, they got sick and we had to call into OSHA. My 31-year-old niece's husband just died of liver cancer at 31. When I read his obituary, he's worked at a plastic company since he's been 18. This is not just East Palestine's issue. It's an issue all over the country. And like Chris said, Chris Albright said, this could happen anywhere. Think about your proximity to a railroad track. One of our Unity Council members is from Cleveland. She was watching an interview with one of us with our kid. She's sitting there with her 4-year-old daughter listening to a train go by. So please open your eyes to the dangers around you. Realize that we are the only ones. We let this country get so far gone. We are the only ones that are going to be able to take this country back, and we need national action. But I thank you guys for being here. We appreciate the support more than any of you guys could imagine. In solidarity.
So I wanted to talk a little bit about like what my symptoms have been over last year, and because a lot of the people in our area, and it's not just East Palestine, but all over our area here, I've talked to a lot of people and they're having the same issues as I'm having. So, my name is Christina Seislauf.
Where you're from?
And, well, I'll get there.
Okay.
So I've had pressure in my ears, itchy skin, migraines, headaches, brain fog, dizziness, confusion, tiredness, low-grade fever, congestion, runny nose, burning in my nose, eyes and throat, strange smells, strange tastes, polyps in my nose, pain around my eyes, itchy eyes, extra mucus, sore and blistered throat, hoarseness, a feeling in my esophagus and lungs, throat, nose, and abdomen, like someone was burning me with acid and lighting me on fire from the inside. Coughing, sore lungs, nausea, vomiting, and diarrhea, sometimes at the same time. Body aches, excessive thirst, loss of appetite at times, stomach pain, abnormal menstruation, cramping and tingling in my feet, twitches, tremors, anxiety, and panic attacks. These are most of the symptoms I can recall. I've had these since the train derailment and the vent and burn that happened last year. Since then, I've been diagnosed with an ear infection, an upper respiratory infection, exposure to toxins that were non-occupational, and even had one doctor tell me they didn't know what to do for us yet, including for my 4-year-old son. I've had blood tests and urine tests only to be told everything was fine. In January, I was diagnosed with PTSD. One of the most recent doctor visits was to have a screening done for cancer. That came back as benign, but they wanted to continue monitoring every 3 months, but the insurance won't pay for that, so we go to every 6 months. I'd been put on antibiotics and a steroid and nasal spray at the beginning. That didn't do much. Now I'm on 2 inhalers, allergy medicine, and 2 anxiety medications. Prior to the derailment and vent and burn, I had not been to the doctor since I had my son in 2019, and prior to that, I had not been to my doctor since 2016. I barely would take headache medicines, even for a migraine, and I was not an immune-compromised person and hardly ever got the flu. I go through symptoms and talk about my prior record for going to the doctor because I wanted people to see the differences between then and now. I'm a resident of South Beaver Township. I live 6 miles from where the train derailed. Not many people talk about their symptoms after the derailment where I live, but our neighbors are further spread apart too. We did talk to neighbors after the derailment only to find that they too had had similar symptoms, and some have a bit different, lasting for different periods of time. Some do not speak out, some are afraid to speak out, and some simply don't just have the time to. We need to have medical monitoring and medical care for now and in the future for ourselves and our children and at least their children. Our doctors still don't know what to tell us. Studies have not been done on humans, at least for multiple chemical exposure, and even less on that exposure in low ranges. A year later, we still don't know what was or still remains in our environment and in our homes that could be affecting us because the science just isn't there yet. Monitoring and screening instruments cannot detect low enough levels of some of the chemicals we have been exposed to, and we still don't know if there are any new chemicals that we don't know about that were created to know those effects on human beings. We had been told last year by the CDC that we were all exposed, but even they don't know what to do about what is or could be in our body, but know how to treat the cancers that it could cause later. This, to me, is not acceptable. Even if they could treat this cancer, that's more chemicals that we should have never had to be exposed to. And some people don't respond to treatments. Some people don't survive the treatments. And why do we have to wait for answers until it could be too late? Many people in our communities do not have health insurance and don't have money to pay for prescriptions they need now for their symptoms that they experience now. They surely don't have money for cancer. There may be some who do have insurance, but they may still not have the extra money to pay for what insurance doesn't cover. Many have lost their jobs since the derailment because of their symptoms and cannot afford medical care. Even if they do have insurance, that would pay for anything you need. Why should your insurance company have to pay for a bill for the negligence done by Norfolk Southern that caused our illnesses? The government should not be let off the hook either. They had the funding to do more research on the chemicals before they even put them on the tracks. They had the power to not lift the evacuation, and some of us were never even told to leave or to stay inside. There should have been more done to protect people, and even to this day, they have done next to nothing to make changes or even monitor the changes that were made. Norfolk Southern has not kept their promise to the whole community to make it right. You cannot put a price on human life. What you can do to start to make things right is to make sure that this does not happen to another community by implementing better safety measures regardless of how much they cost you. You can set up programs to help people with their medical needs now and in the future instead of acting as though there is nothing wrong here when clearly there is. You can start telling the truth. We did not ask for this disaster to happen. What would they want for their loved ones if this had happened to them? Again, we didn't ask for this to happen to us.
My name is Rob Two Hawks. It's not my family name, but that is my Native American acquired name from going through hell and back to get it, which I did years ago to deal with my own complex PTSD, which I suffered from decades. So we went through many wars. Was never in the military, but that has triggered a little bit of all that. You think you're done and you think you've finished it all, and another trauma comes down the highway. And this whole community, knowingly or not, is there. Whether they're having health symptoms or not, they're there. But time will tell. About 2 or 3 weeks ago, I came home from the East Palestine clinic, and I think I've been there maybe 6 or 7 visits now. Looked like a good thing, and I still think it has some value, although it's not really been that helpful. We've not been able to get the toxicity testing we've needed, and they'd had to farm people out to specialists that didn't know what to do either, but that's part of the story here later. In all those 6 or 7 visits, I only saw one other person sitting in the lobby. And that was disheartening, and at the same time I thought, what the hell is going on here? And so a lot of people didn't avail themselves of the services because they had kind of caught wind that they weren't going to get the testing they needed and so on and so forth. But anyhow, about a month ago, I walked out of there smiling because I finally got something that I wanted. I got a do not resuscitate sticker to put on my refrigerator. And that was quite satisfying because I've been through enough and I'm not going there. I've been there for years and years. I have a number of really weird health issues. I have an incredibly rare form of heart failure. It's very advanced. So I appreciate our friend here and what he's dealing with. Mine's quite well developed, far along. It is mitochondrial or metabolic rather than vascular, which means the problem is in the tissue of the heart itself. That's going to mean something to everybody here that's exposed because toxins impact mitochondria. And depending upon your genetic profile and where you sat geographically and your past history and your present health, it can shoot off in a bunch of different ways, but you're going to have to learn a little more about metabolic and mitochondrial medicine. I'd like to say a couple things about that because I've been here for maybe 15 years traveling down, having to be my own armchair physician because nobody could handle my situation 15 years ago. And a lot of people are going to be traveling a very similar road here. So it helps to know, while I couldn't diagnose or get official about all the unique individual symptoms, a lot of you are going to travel down similar roads that I've traveled down. Hopefully I can save you a few steps. And in the next few years, on the upside, while most of our allopathic conventional physicians and even specialists are not quite prepared to deal with chronic illnesses, period, let alone environmental illnesses, as per NASM a month or so ago said that all of the doctors in a row, including the ER, including the specialists, are not trained in environmental medicine. The good news is we have something called the Mitochondrial Medical Center at one of the finest universities in the state of Ohio. What university, or what, excuse me, hospital. Cleveland Clinic. Yeah, and we also have what is called an integrative, or the very first functional medical center in the United States. There are others now. It's also the same wonderful hospital. So this is the future. You can learn a lot yourself. There's plenty online. It's the future, and it's coming to meet us. As a rule, whatever trickles down from the halls of academic medical knowledge in laboratories takes a decade or more, even if they have the cure today. That is all hastening right now, and that's in our favor. And so we're going to need to get a grip on that because we're not going to treat Again, I'm not saying everybody that has been exposed and everybody that's symptomatic is going to have this symptom or that illness or that chronic disease. No way of knowing that. Some people will have milder forms. Some people will, have the already existing health and no pre-existing conditions, and they're going to come through this without something else going on. Some people aren't. So we're going to need to look at that. What else can I say about that? You have any idea? Is that good? Oh, I'd like to make an analogy here, though. It's a real simple one. What we do, this is a good analogy, and I've used it a few times here. We have a fish in the aquarium. A lot of people here, I'm sure, have fish tanks. At any rate, what our present medical model does is it treats the fish, and it doesn't adjust the pH or clean the aquarium. And that's exactly where we're sitting with toxic disasters and illnesses. So that tells you basically what you got to do. You got to treat the fish. And that means detoxification is going to be incredibly important in building immunity. And that is the future of healthcare related to the people in East Palestine and the surrounding area. So, pay attention.
My name's Darren Gamble, and I'm from East Palestine. I live about a half a mile from the derailment, and in the house that I've lived, my 6 generations of my family's lived in. I've lived in for 60 years. And just recently, this last week, we've made the realization that we're going to have to sell our home and move. I mean, when the derailment happened, we did relocate for 10 months while they was digging up the contaminated soil, and things were, really bad in town. So after it was all cleaned up, again, we get the okay to go home. And in a matter of days after returning home, my wife was extremely sick again. And it's just, we have enough air monitors in our house to probably clean the Cleveland Clinic. I mean, like 4 or 5 at every level. And most every night, they're all bright red. So whatever's there is still there. It's not going anywhere. But I come down here today because, I'm a retired member from Bricklayers Local 8 in Youngstown, Ohio, with 35 years service. And for all the union brothers and sisters that are here, for solidarity for us, it's, we're to the point now that, we've been screaming this to anybody that'll listen for over a year. And the sad part of it is that nobody will do anything. Nobody will help us. It's just like we're forgotten. And to me, it's unbelievable. It is criminal. There's no doubt in my mind that what's going on here is criminal. And, to me, I say it's kind of like COVID. We'll never know the whole story, just what we're told. And, I don't know how. Obviously, steps like this are very important to get this ball rolling. To bring awareness, not only to us, but the other thousands of communities in the country that are being poisoned. It's just so eye-opening. Like I said, I've lived here my whole life. Before this happened, there was no such thing as environmentalists to me. That all happened somewhere else. These things happen somewhere else, like mass shootings, what have you. But this time, it did happen to us. And it's, the consequences that it's causing is just mind-blowing. And the fact that nobody will help us is even more, just unbelievable. So I appreciate, especially all the union people who are here today, trying to stand in solidarity with us, and, appreciate you guys all for coming. And God willing, in the creek don't rise, we're going to get through this, but I don't know how. Thanks a lot.